Hey there, everyone. Before we start the show, we here at Popcorn for Dinner want to give a big shout out to our good friend and illustrator, Kyle Kedzik, for helping us celebrate making it to 40 episodes with some brand new custom artwork, which is now up on all of our social media accounts. We love it. We hope you love it. And if you're looking for some new custom artwork for your business or project, you can look him up on Facebook at Kyle Kedzik, or even drop him a line at kylekedzik@gmail.com. That's KYLEKEDZUCH@gmail.com. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Popcorn for Dinner. This is Jeff.
And Kelly.
Before They Were Famous month comes to a close this week, and I am incredibly excited to talk about the movie that we have in store for you this week. This movie was the inspiration for the entire month. I don't recall where I tracked it down, like what rabbit hole I went down that led me to this movie.
Yeah.
But I read the title, I read the description, and I saw his hair, and I was like, yep, gotta do it. Gotta fucking track this movie down. It looks so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just have to do it. And it became Before They Were Famous month simply because it was a movie that he did before he was famous.
Yes.
So it's fun to see it as the last movie of the month, where it was like, it was the one that started the idea, but we didn't get around to it till we watched 4 other movies of Before They Were Famous. I'll put it this way. It is surprising that it is so different than the others based on the movies we picked. It's not that it necessarily says anything about it, but it was like, you know, low budget horror movies or fucking something like Masters of the Universe, like goofy fantasy flick.
Yeah.
And then Space Camp, just like 80s goofiness and whatever. But this one is the only one that's like an art film. You know, it's very much a pretentious ass art film, and that makes it just such a different viewing experience. But the movie we are doing here for the last week of Before They Were Famous month is the 1991, and on IMDb it says comedy drama musical, but we'll talk about that in a sec. Johnny Suede, starring a pre-fame Brad Pitt as the man with the most obnoxious pompadour in the history of cinema. I have never seen anything like this before.
What was the cartoon? Johnny
Bravo.
Johnny Bravo.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That it's based. I mean, it's. I read somewhere that it might have actually inspired that cartoon's hairdo. That might just be wishful thinking, but I could absolutely see it.
Yes, headcanon.
Yeah, it is. It is fucking ridiculous. But the IMDb description of the movie, the synopsis of the movie, because if you asked me to create one, it would be difficult.
Yes.
But the IMDb synopsis is: a struggling young musician and devoted fan of Ricky Nelson wants to be just like his idol and become a rock star. So that's not false.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like we've said that a lot about this month, where it's like, okay, yeah, technically in those like broad strokes, yeah.
That is accurate to the character, yes.
It's just that, like, they call it a musical here on IMDb.
Yeah.
And that is not true. Despite the fact that it is about a guy who's trying to start a band and he plays guitar and sings. There's so much about that to talk about.
Yeah.
Because it's ludicrous. But I mean, I would never call this a musical.
No.
There's like that 3 sequences of someone singing a song sort of beginning to end. Like there's a few scenes of people like jamming a little bit and playing like a riff or a little thing or something, and then there's the one scene with Nick Cave where he sings that song about he was born in a motel room. There's the one rehearsal that the band has, and then there's the one song that he starts showing to one of the girls, and then at the end of the scene it's him showing it to his buddy Deke, whatever that one was. And that's it. That's all the like musical performances in the movie, and they are all simply someone performing a song they wrote.
Yeah.
So it's really not a musical at all.
Yeah, it's not a it's not a musical sequence that like progresses the plot.
Yeah, at all, really.
It's just a guy playing a guitar and singing. Sometimes there's a couple other people playing instruments.
Exactly. And the movie takes place in New York, in what I'm assuming is the present day for the time the movie was made.
Yeah.
Like late 80s, early 90s. For a while, I was like, I don't understand when this movie takes place.
Yeah.
Because he's clearly so old-fashioned and like 50s rocker looking. But then it was like, but that club seemed way more modern. So it was like, okay, so it's a guy who's like stuck in the past and he likes... no offense, but like lame things, you know what I mean? Like stuff that's just not cool to everybody, like at the beginning of the movie, he's at that club and he just like looks like dejected, like, oh, like I don't belong here or whatever. And then throughout the movie, he's always like playing his like 50s music and everyone's like, yeah, so anything modern?
Yeah.
Got anything else that we could possibly listen to? Like, oh, what, you don't want to listen to my old fucking 45s or something? Like, no. Could we listen to like the radio maybe?
Yeah.
Can you afford a radio? Because that's another huge thing about the character is like he's just like living in a shithole. And apparently, it's sort of generic and cliche of just like, hey, you can't afford the rent. And, he's a struggling artist, quote unquote. Sorry, it's one of my favorite notes I've ever written because of how much the movie like apparently didn't mean this. But like he sits down with his guitar at one point because he's just like, hey, I'm gonna try to make this rock star shit happen. And like he's been talking about it a bit over the movie, but we haven't seen Brad Pitt sit down and like play a guitar or sing a thing or whatever. And the scene starts and it's just him sitting there with the guitar like like jamming on it really hard and awkwardly, like clearly not a really seasoned guitar player.
Yeah.
And singing terribly.
Yes.
And I was like, I mean, that was essentially my note. It was just like, so blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he wants to be a musician. He's got a guitar, all of this. And then, oh no, but he's horrible. Like that was I was like, oh, is that like the sort of the thing of this movie is like, he's like a goofus with a dumb haircut and like obsessed with stuff. And he's also terrible at what he does.
Yeah. So he's really never going to make it.
Yeah. Like it's like a real sad sort of thing. But the movie then continues on and everyone keeps telling him he has a great voice and that he sings well. Yeah. And stuff. And I'm like, is it all a ruse? Because there were so many points in this movie where I thought like everybody in the movie was going to be like, we're all playing a joke on you. Right? Did you get that feeling too? Because oh my god, it really cemented itself when he meets that girl Darlette.
Yes, the first girl.
Yeah, the first girl that he like has a relationship with in this movie.
Yes, that seems sketchy as fuck.
I mean, it wasn't just that it was sketchy, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here and completely blame the director because there are some great people in this movie doing terrible jobs, and it's concern. Like if Catherine Keener, who, oh my god, fucking Catherine Keener, I was so excited that she was in this. I love her. Like if she didn't go on and do way better shit and show how great she is, you would have watched this movie and been like, ooh. Yeah. I don't know about her. We'll see what happens with her. And then the same thing with Darlette, that character. She felt like she was acting the whole time and really unconvincingly. Yeah. So much so that I assumed it was on purpose. I was like, she is so quote unquote acting right now that like it must be a put on or something. Like she must be like sent to destroy him or something, you know, like there must be something going on behind the
Yeah.
scenes because I have no idea why. I mean, for one, why she's with him, and why she exists at all. She's kind of terrible. And it sucks to say that because it's like one of the big main things about her is like she gets the shit kicked out of her by her other boyfriend.
Yeah.
Who they decide that they're gonna fucking switch off days being boyfriends with her.
I guess.
And it seems like that was legitimate. Like I couldn't tell sometimes what was real and what wasn't because of how much Johnny lied all the time to make himself seem cooler. And it was like it's a fine enough sort of character thing where it's like you see something happen and then he comes in. Yeah. And he tells them a clearly different story, and you're like, okay, yeah, you're lying, and you're doing, you're trying to make yourself look cooler in front of all your friends. It's just that it doesn't come down to anything later. He doesn't like realize what a shit he is, or like how lame really he is. In terms of like lying all the time about everything to seem so cool. Like, I fought off a guy with this huge knife. I was like, no, that didn't happen. Yeah. And like all of that shit made him really like unlikable and seem like just like a dipshit, really. Yeah. That's really the best the best word to use for him. Where it's just like, you're dumb, you're not good at anything, and you're really cocky about it. Like, you're a real dipshit. I loved at one point, he fucking yells at those, the dudes on that train. He's like sitting there and then there's those two like business guys who are talking about like, I think I'm going to be starting a relationship. And all of that dialogue sounded so weird. Anytime there was someone that Johnny was overhearing, it sounded like people acting like they're having a conversation and making sure that he hears them. It was... Everything about this felt like it was like a Truman Show thing or something. It was like the whole world is in on fucking with this dipshit. Yeah, it seemed
fucking
like
with Johnny Suede.
Yeah, this asshole who I could not believe that was his name. I'll put it this way. Like the beginning of the movie, he finds those fucking like magic suede shoes or whatever because he has shitty ass shoes, and then they literally fall from the sky and land on the phone booth he's using. And then he puts them on and they're super awesome. And I guess he's like confident now to do stuff. I don't know. Yeah. But either way, he gets the shoes and then he's sitting in his apartment and he gets up and he writes the name Johnny Suede on the wall. And it's right after he has that little dream sequence of like brushing a suede shoe with a toothbrush into a microphone and then telling everyone how great Suede is. And the crowd reacts like it's a rock concert. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? What is going on, movie? This is so silly and dumb.
Like almost immediately.
Yeah, it's very early in the movie when that happens. But he gets up, he goes over, he writes Johnny Suede on the wall. And I'm like, okay, yeah. So he has that little daydream and he thinks of a great stage name. Yeah. I was like, cool, all right. And then the next scene, he goes and he sees his friend Deke. And at the end of the scene, he says something about like, catch you later, Johnny Suede. And I was like, how did he know his stage name already? He hasn't told him. He just did it. Yeah. He didn't tell him what his name was yet. And then later they reveal like, my name's Johnny Suede. Hey, how about that? Like, I'm literally the last name Suede. Like, what? Okay, I guess. But no... Like again, he just looks like a dipshit all the time. That stupid fucking hair. But the part that I thought was great, that dude talking about wanting to be in a relationship or something, and Johnny hears it, and he walks up to him and he says like, he's like, don't worry, there's someone out there for you. And Johnny gets up and he says something along the lines of like, oh yeah. I was just in the other car and there's a lady in there who's asking if anybody saw someone who looks like a total fucking moron. So you should go check. And then he walks away. Yeah. And I was like, big talk, calling someone else a big fucking moron while you're wearing that hair. Like, are you kidding me right now, dude? Like, he is so pathetic and shallow and shitty and dumb. And like, he is a really awful person. Yeah. I loved when he got broken up with by Darlette because it comes out of nowhere in the middle of a scene. And like they're just like talking about something. I don't even remember. All of their conversations were inane and stupid and like really art filmy.
I wrote a note about it. She showed him a picture and that led to a
Oh,
conversation
yeah,
about
dumb argument
and then he like about how she had good times with
flipped out the photographer.
yeah,
Seriously.
awful. I hate it.
Yeah, but and he's like, oh, if I punch you around, then maybe we'll have some fun.
Yeah.
And she's like, why would you joke about that? And he's like, well, I don't know. And then she's like, we're breaking up.
Yeah. And then immediate, like, all right, we're breaking up.
Yeah. And it was like definitely like understandable and totally expected, like I said, but it was just very sudden where I was like, it felt like they were going to like fight and then like be apart or something like that. But they was just like, nope, it's just over. And I was like, oh, well, okay, cool. We can move on. We don't have to fucking watch this woman like fake act anymore. Awesome. Yeah. So strange. Like really? I'm not even gonna like go in on her and be like, man, she sucks at acting. But it was just, it really felt like everyone was directed to act poorly. You know what I mean? Like, it's so strange. Like, I don't believe for a second that these performances are anybody's like initial try. It's like they probably ran through the scene and did it like a normal human. And then the director was like, whoa, 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 whoa.
You're way too normal.
Yeah, you get
this is an art film.
Dead in the eyes. Say it as monotone as you can.
Seriously. It was, even Brad Pitt was it's monotone throughout that. If it had been just one person, then you can like kind of pinpoint it. Them. But since it's across the board.
Yeah, really.
Just terrible.
I at least sort of understand the decision to cast Nick Cave in the movie. Who's Nick Cave in the Bad Seeds as Freak Storm, where it's like he's like, you know, he's like a weird art guy and he totally looks like a weird art guy, you know, give him a crazy haircut, he totally fits the role. Like he looks like what I would imagine that character should look like. But I don't know if he just like has never acted before that, or again if it was a case of like just not being directed well. But that scene that he and Johnny have towards the end where he sings in that song is so like bonkers, like film student. You get one take because we only have one roll of film. Yeah. And so we just have to go. And if you fuck up, just keep going in that scene. Cause like eventually it comes down to just like a 2-shot of them sitting there. And like the wheels fall off in that scene because they keep like he keeps talking over Brad Pitt. He like starts a line and then Brad Pitt will start his line and then he's like, and then he waits a sec and then he puts his line in after Brad Pitt finishes. Like he keeps jumping on the line. And then there's the like ridiculous little thing when he keeps flip-flopping on that money where he's like, yeah, give me the $20 and I'll give it to my guy and he'll hear your demo tape. Totally. So he hands it to him and he's like, yeah, cool. No. You know what? You take it.
I don't want to be bothered with
that. I don't want to fucking have to deal with that kind of shit. And Johnny's like, oh, okay. And he's like, yeah, you know what? Just give that back to me. Give it back. I'll give it to him. But it didn't seem like a I'm on drugs tweaker kind of moment of like, oh, his train of thought is going all crazy. It really seemed like he maybe improvised giving the money back and then was like, no, you know what? I do need to take it. So I'll improvise back over it and just take it again. And it's just like, oh my God. I can't imagine the director saying cut after that take and being like, we got it. You know, right. Like I could only imagine that he said cut and was like, that has to be it because we're out of money or something like that. Because it was legitimately terrible. Yeah. And it did not help my feelings towards this movie overall because it's just so like, I mean, I will flat out say this movie sucks. Like it's a bit of a declaration, but it definitely really does suck.
I mean, just scrolling through my notes shortly after that scene you were just talking about, because I wrote down Freak is gonna steal the money.
Oh yeah, I mean I figured it was gone as soon as he gave it to him. I was like, yeah.
My note was just, what is the point of this movie?
Right? There's nothing. It's just he never learns anything. It's just like things happen through the movie and then it's over and whatever. If they would have like had him take his shitty band and play a set in front of a crowd and the crowd hate it and like shove it into his face about how it's like, yeah, you're a terrible, shitty artist and you're a bad person. You have a shitty personality and attitude. Like everything about you sucks.
You're really bad at painting trim on glass doors.
Yeah. Like he sucks, but he thinks he's the greatest. So if at the end of the movie it was like, no, everyone lets you know you suck, I would have accepted that as an ending. Like, okay, so he sucks and you're frustrated because he doesn't learn anything, and then at the end he gets shown how much he sucks. It would almost feel good. You know what I mean? It would be like a flipped feel good ending where it's like, he doesn't feel good, but I do because he feels bad. You know, or even like if it was like a great performance and you could, you know, art film explain it away as being like, that's just what he saw or thought happened, or like that was just, you know, that's not how it really went down. Yeah, the whole movie was a dream, not just random scenes where there's naked guys sitting some places and iguanas showing up and stuff. I had no fucking idea what any of that dream sequence bullshit was about.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like iguanas and exploding windows and stuff.
There
and
were
I was just
a lot of exploding windows. That happened multiple times throughout the movie.
Yeah, and I'm just like, what does that mean? Why is that? I remember writing down, I was like, so is Johnny, because he gets like horrifically sick at one point, and then he starts dreaming.
Well, he gets he gets food poisoning from the chicken that Freak gave him in the alley.
Gotcha. Okay, I didn't put that together.
I mean, that was my assumption because the scene where he got sick immediately followed that scene where he ate the chicken.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. And I just wrote, I was like, a dying hallucination? Like, what is going on here? Like, because he starts seeing, what the fuck is your dumbass name? Darlette, right? Darlette? God.
The first one?
These names. Yeah. Darlette and Flipped Out, the photographer guy. Like, they see him collapse in his apartment. Yeah. And then drag him into their apartment to like, oh, and we'll get you water and we'll get you this and whatever. And then that little cowboy guy shows up and stabs him in the stomach and blood goes everywhere. And then he wakes up in his own home. And it's just like, he'll never take any of that advice, any of that like dream advice, like even if it does mean something, which I'm sure you could find some sort of reading on it where it's like, well, what that really represents is that he's thinking about this and that, whatever. Still, the character himself is such a dipshit that there's no way he would ever wake up from one of those like ridiculously symbolic dreams and be like, oh, I see. That's what I need to deal with.
I am an asshole.
Yeah, he would just be like, well, that was weird. Time to write some more terrible songs. And not collaborate with my bandmates on what the band should sound like. I love that he and Deke sit down way early in the movie and just start talking about how they're going to like, oh, we're going to do the band. The band is going to happen. Totally the band. And then when they finally get together, Johnny plays his like 50s style song and Deke's like, how about we speed it up and make it like and Johnny's like, no, what are you doing? And I was like, you guys really never nailed down what your band was gonna be like at all. You were just like, we're gonna be in a band, we're totally gonna band it up, band, but never discussing the music or the genre. Any of that kind of stuff. Other members,
possibly.
Yeah, like what truly does Deke do?
Why was Sam L only in one scene?
Unbelievable. I was very upset. I was like, okay, cool. Well, he's a part of his band, so hopefully this will continue through the rest of the movie. They'll go to more rehearsals and he'll be more involved. And then no, you never see those other two guys ever again.
He gets a job in another band, so it's like immediately like you have confirmation he is not coming back in this movie. Damn it.
Bummer. Yeah, sorry, I was looking for this note earlier and I was wrong. It's not that later one when he gets food poisoning. It's earlier. It's right after Darlette breaks up with him. Is that he's just like laying around his apartment feeling sad. And I'm just like, whatever, dude. Like you both said that you loved each other, I think, or something like that. And I was just like, because of what? Yeah. I don't see anything in your relationship. Like there's nothing here. It doesn't even look like you have fun together.
Yeah.
It's like, it's always just like she's real passive aggressive and then he starts a dumb fight because he's an idiot. And it's just like over and over. Like this is the worst relationship in the world. I don't necessarily feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
He's laying there in bed and then all of a sudden that iguana shows up. And it showed up mid-sentence on me because I was just like, oh, great. Now he's all heartbroken. And what is that iguana doing there? Like, where does he have an iguana? I don't think he does.
Yeah.
And then later, he sees that iguana, but it's at Flipped Out's apartment during a dream sequence. So it's like, okay, so the iguana is just a dream thing, or does it actually live somewhere? Who owns this iguana?
Yeah, I want to know more about the iguana.
Yeah, can we detour from this dumb story and just follow this iguana? I'd watch that art film way, I'd way more want to watch that. And so just looking at these fucking notes, just, are we supposed to empathize with Johnny or think he's being a pissy, egocentric moron? Like, that's like halfway through the movie is like, I'm not sure which stance this movie wants me to take.
Yeah.
But I don't like him at all. So I hope that doesn't ruin the rest of the movie. And it like sort of does, only because the very, very end, you hate the characters for what they do. God, I hate all of you. I don't like the decisions that you make. Because like he eventually gets together with Yvonne, Catherine Keener's character. And she's, way cooler than Darlette in every single possible facet.
Yep.
Like she seems to care about his music a little bit, at least. Like she was willing to sit and watch the performance and everything, or the rehearsal and everything.
Yeah.
Because I know that Darlette was all like, can we not fucking listen to this shit anymore? and made him upset. So I was like, okay, so she's down with that. Like she's got her own place and she has a room for you. Like she's like, you could just have that room as a room for you.
Yeah.
So like hang out and play music and do whatever and blah, blah, blah. And I got a TV and I got all this stuff. And
color TV.
Yeah, color TV. And it's just like, I could not understand why she would have asked him to move in with her, because it was like, as cool as she was, he was equally lame towards her in every possible way. And it's just like, I don't understand how anyone sticks around with this guy. I didn't understand why Deke stuck around with him.
Me neither.
I wrote several times that I was like, he is the friend that Johnny does not deserve. You know what I mean? Like he is so in with that band, despite the fact that Johnny has no plans or direction or anything, and he's terrible at it.
To the point that Deke steals a gun or acquires someone's gun for them to rob a barber shop.
Yeah. To get money, which was so dumb too, because like they start the movie talking about that. And they're like, yeah, we do that, and I'd get my guitar back from the pawn shop with that money, and we'd start doing stuff or whatever. And then he gets his guitar back from the pawn shop anyway without robbing the barber shop. Yeah. And then later they like bring the gun up again, like, yeah, we could rob that barber shop. And I was like, I thought that was about getting the guitar back. You already have it. Why would you go through with the robbery if you don't need to anymore? This is so dumb. And I was like, oh, is he going to like try to rob the place and get shot and die at the end of this movie? Like, it's totally an art film that would do that. Please do that. They don't do that.
That would have been a preferable ending.
Yeah, really. But like, Yvonne is super cool. He's super lame. For some reason, she likes him and even invites him to come and move in. He has that fucking ridiculous scene with Deke where they're doing the like pros and cons list of moving in with her, and he just like purposefully lists a bunch of dumb shit to outweigh the pros so that he can be a dumb man about it. Like, and I hated, like, I loved and hated how much Deke just like followed along with him, where it's like, you're so loyal to the worst guy. Yeah. Go find a better person to be loyal to, please.
Yeah. But when you need to know better.
When he's just like, I wouldn't be able to make a fart. It would be terrible or whatever. And then he's just like, yeah, you got to be making them farts, man. You can't not be making farts. Like, it was so dumb. Like, what the fuck are you two idiots talking about? Like, you know what? If she was here and she saw this conversation happening right now, she would rescind her invitation to let you move in, because she'd be like, oh, he's a child. Oh, okay. See, I thought he was an adult.
A grown man.
A grown-ass man. Unfortunately, he's a dumb child with a dumb haircut. And that just bummed me the fuck out that she stuck with him at all, that she had him move in, and then the ending of the movie speaks so fucking terrible, where it's like, okay, so they get in a fight because he cheats on her and says like the dumbest thing to try to make up for it. I was like, I felt like something was pushing me all day and it made me do things I didn't want to do. And she's like, so that's bullshit. Yeah. And then he has the audacity to turn that around on her somehow. I don't even remember exactly what he says, but he says something that's like, you don't even support me when I tell you things. And it's like, that is so not the situation here.
Yeah.
You just admitted to following a strange woman home from the train and then breaking into her apartment. I mean, if she left the door slightly ajar, I'm not going to sit here and say she was asking for it. You know what I mean? Like, no, he broke into her apartment. He was not supposed to be in there, and he went in there.
Yeah, that was trespassing.
Yeah, and then just waltzed in, and then they had sex, and then he ran home.
No, she made him dinner.
Oh, yeah, she made him dinner.
What, a can of beans?
I guess. I don't know. There was so many, like, repeating images in this movie that were just like, I don't...
Yeah.
What does any... Like, this is the worst kind of art film. The just, like... weird for the sake of weird. Look at this shit. I don't have any idea what I'm doing. Kind of bullshit. Like,
nothing
I really
means anything.
Yeah, exactly. It's so fucking dumb. Like, I swear they showed those beans before. Like, in like a dream sequence or something. So when she pulled them out of like the not garbage bag, out of the grocery bag and turned it around towards him, and it was like, the beans. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, what? This was like destiny or something.
Yeah.
Like, I know he gives that speech like, oh, it felt like something was pushing me around and making me do these things. It's like, well, look, movie, you don't get to have that as an excuse when your character is such a piece of shit the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like, he does one decent thing. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, like, is that the point? Like, thinking about it, I wrote right at the beginning that I was like, okay, so he isn't a total scumbag, because when he leaves the club, he sees those two dudes, like, basically raping that woman.
Yeah.
And then he goes to that phone booth and he calls it in.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so he's
total douchebag.
Yeah, he's a little cowardly because he didn't say anything to those guys, and he just sort of let them talk him away. You know, just like, what? You're not seeing anything? It's fine. Get out of here, kiddo. And he's just like, okay. But it's like, but at least he has a conscience enough to do that.
Yeah.
But then immediately that's when the shoes fall on the fucking roof of the car.
Which, where the fuck
roof of the car, roof of the phone booth.
Yeah.
I mean, they come from nowhere because it's an art film.
Yeah.
And so they, like, he puts them on, and then is that the thing? Like, he does one decent thing, and then he puts on these shoes, and they turn him into a piece of shit for the rest of the movie.
Yeah. And
I guess
the only other somewhat decent thing he does is stopping the midget from...
Oh yeah, looking up Yvonne's skirt. Yeah. Which made me think. I had a note later. I was just like, oh, so he's evolved from stopping the skirt lookers to being the skirt looker when he's looking up the woman's skirt on the train. And I was like, okay, so he sucks even worse now than he did earlier in the movie. That's great. Like, what is the fucking point of all of this? Like, his like misguided sense of like self, you know, where it's like, I need to be able to do the things that I want to do, you know, without having to answer for it or whatever.
Without consequence.
Yeah, without any sort of consequence. And him never truly learning from it.
Yeah.
And the fact that he just like goes back to Yvonne after all of that, like after cheating on her, turning it around on her, and then punching her in the stomach and just bailing. And I was like, okay, so now he's completely awful.
Yeah.
Is this the part where he like tries to do the robbery and gets shot? Please, hopefully, please. Like something to fucking end it up. And then he has another fucking dream sequence.
Yeah, that's when he falls asleep in like restaurant or whatever.
Yeah, in the diner or whatever, and has that weird dream sequence where Yvonne is bleeding and there's that naked old guy and all that stuff. And then he wakes up and he goes back to Yvonne's apartment and he's like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I wrote into my notes, I was just like, Yvonne, he broke in. Shoot him. Like, just kill him. Like, do something. Like, oh my God, don't just let this happen.
Yeah.
Like, this is the worst. Like, the fact that they couldn't even let it be a thing where, like, he comes back and he knocks on the door, you know, like to get her to, it's like, yeah, okay, maybe he moved in there, but he also just did all that awful stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you don't live there anymore, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
you
sorry.
were kicked out.
Yeah, you were straight up fucking kicked out because I doubt you're paying any rent with your no money.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's sort of ridiculous that it just sort of ends. I mean, I don't even recall if she has a line back to him. He just like comes in and says, I'm sorry. And then she kind of looks at him and then it cuts down to the shoe that she threw at him, his other suede shoe sitting on the top of a car, and it drives off and the movie's over.
Yep.
And you don't see what her reaction is. But it's like the fact that her reaction wasn't like, get the fuck out, is like, well, then that sucks. Then that ending sucks. Because he is the worst and he's done terrible things and he's going to get another chance. It's like it's just a big fucking like cycle.
Yeah.
Like he starts garbage and he ends the movie as garbage. And then
possibly worse garbage.
Yeah, quite possibly. Like at least before, I don't think he'd ever punched a woman in the gut, but now he has.
Yeah.
So, he's got that notch on his belt. My final note after that, I just wrote, this movie is crap garbage. One word. I was like, I do not enjoy any of this. This is really terrible. And like, I would even say that Brad Pitt is kind of bad.
Yeah.
And again, just in the sense of the director, how this movie was made, like the vision of this movie is like muddy and murky and not very good.
Mm-hmm.
And that encompasses everything. It's like the story is nonsense. The acting is terrible. Like I read that the director even like he pushed for Brad Pitt to be the guy super hard. And then after the movie was over, like later on, he would give quotes about it. And he was like, yeah, his performance was not good. I did not like it. And it was like, you directed it, you dumb shit.
Yeah.
Like, you saw it every single day. It's like it made him seem more childish than just, like aloof or whatever. And it's like, no, you directed him to be a stupid fucking child through this whole movie. And then you're going to complain about it later as though it's Brad Pitt's fault?
What a dick.
Go to hell. Yeah, really. I was like, I've never really felt this way about like, fuck you, director of this movie.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to go into it. I'm not going to like pull up his name right now. Anyone can look it up or whatever. And it's like, it's not like he's done like a billion things. But I'm also not just going to sit here and be like, this fucking specific guy, fuck you, fuck you. But like, truthfully, though, it's like this had so many talented people in it. And I would even give it like props for looking decent. You know what I mean? Like, it's clearly like I was reading about how it got put together with like all sorts of like grants and things. Where they just like cobbled the money together. So it was a real independent kind of movie.
Yeah.
And it winds up looking really good. It looks like a movie. Like, there's nothing in it that's super like, ooh, low budge. Like, oh man. It's like it all looks pretty decent. Like, this is a well put together movie. It's just that the actual direction of the movie seemed bad.
Yeah.
Real bad.
Real bad.
I have so many notes in here that are literally just about his hair and how dumb it is and how huge it is. And one of them specifically was just like, he puts it up to go paint.
Yeah.
Like, I had plenty of like, I had mohawks and shit. So I've done the like hairspray and get something to stand up and all that kind of stuff. I've never done a pompadour, but I can assume a lot of the things are the same. And it's donezo by the end of the day. You have to redo that. He couldn't just put that up at the beginning of the week and just be cool with it all the way through the rest of it.
Yeah.
So you have to redo that all the time. So your dumbass puts it up to go paint, to go to your fucking painting job, which you act like you're too good for and are terrible at, and like take such like offense to the guy who like is running it. Like, yeah, he's kind of being a jerk. The guy who's telling them to paint and all that. But at the same time, it's like, do it.
Yeah, just do the job you've been hired to do.
Yeah, really. Like, truthfully, he comes back and he finds him huddled up, sitting on the floor, like him and Deke, because they're going over the gun because he found a bullet for it. Yeah. And they're like, oh, we got this gun. Now we got a bullet. Now we can do something about something. And the guy comes back there and he's like, so, painting, eh? Like what are you guys doing over here? And then that's when he goes in and shows them, like, there's all these fucking bumps and all this shit. Like, you guys are doing a bad job. And it's like, yeah, you are, and you suck. And he's right, even if he's a jerk. Yeah. And then Johnny's going to blow his head off. He puts the gun to the back of the dude's head when he's not looking and everything. And Deke has to, like, stop him. Yeah. And in the next scene, he's like, I was just joking around, man. And it's like, I would not trust you. Yeah. Truthfully. Like, I would do what Deke did of like pull it down before something really fucking horrible happens because you're like an impulsive jackass. Seriously. Who's going to shoot people. But I did love that was essentially it. I wrote in my notes, I was like, Deke has finally had it. And he's leaving him. Like, they have the little breakup scene in the diner, which I thought was wonderful because it was just like, yes, go be friends. Go hang out with Sam L in that band.
Yes.
Like, go play keyboards for them or something. Be in anything. Oh, actually, he says he's making a band, right? That's what that scene is about. He's like, I started a band, by the way, Johnny. I couldn't just sit around and wait for you. Yeah. He's like, oh, well, okay, well, whatever. It's like, he's fucking right.
Yeah.
You never write songs. You're bad at it anyway. Mm-hmm. Like, all of this stuff is like piling up against you of like how terrible you are.
Seriously.
And everyone starts abandoning you like they should. Mm-hmm. Like, that should be the message of the movie, is like, you've become horrible on top of what I'm sure was already underlying terrible in the first place.
Yeah.
But like, you've become really horrible and everyone is going to leave you because of it. Like, even if that's a bleak ass fucking movie and message, at least there's a movie and message.
Yeah.
Like, at least there's something that this is about, because this movie is about nothing. And I was not a big fan of the callback joke with the shoes. Mm-hmm. When he's like, he literally says to her, I really hate it when people throw shoes at me. And then that's when they're in their fight towards the end, she whips one of his shoes at him and it like goes out the window. And that's when he punches her and he tells her, like, I told you I don't like people throwing shoes at me. And it was like, that felt like it was supposed to be a callback, like punchline. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he just punched her in the gut.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh,
and she is keeled over on the bed.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, this guy is horrible. And this is the part of the movie where you realize, like, oh, he's the worst and all that. Mm-hmm. And then he delivers that line. And it was like, was that supposed to be like the button on the scene of like, oh, get it? Remember when he said that? So he punched you? Like, ugh. This is like such poor taste. Mm-hmm. Really, really bad taste.
Yeah.
And not in a John Waters fun way where it's like, hey, someone's eating dog poop because fuck you. Like, that's the whole point, is to make you feel gross. Like, this movie was not that. Not even close.
Also, if his shoe had just landed on the roof of a car, I'm assuming parked nearby that window.
Yeah.
How did searching for it for 20 minutes not turn up that shoe?
Because he's a fucking idiot.
This is true.
Like, that is really the answer you could do for anything of like, why does something dumb happen to Johnny Suede? And it's like, because he's a fucking moron.
Yeah.
I had the weirdest thing. Okay, so one of the first scenes with him and his buddy Deke at the diner, and they're sitting and talking or whatever, and Johnny just says out of nowhere, if I had a gun, I'd do something. And this is after he's shown just like walking around looking sad. And then his landlord comes and yells at him about the rent. And he has to sell his guitar. And then he says that line, like, if I had a gun, I'd do something. And a few lines later, they finally get into the like, yeah, we could rob that barbershop or whatever.
Yeah.
My mind immediately went to suicide.
Mine too.
I don't know why, but I was just like, what a declaration.
Yeah.
Like, straight up, like, right at the top of the movie of just being like, if I had a gun, I would kill myself. Like, holy shit. Oh, man, I kind of feel bad for him now.
Yeah.
And then when I realized, like, oh, he's talking about robbing a fucking barber shop. What an idiot. And so like, then it flipped immediately.
Of all places, too. Like, a fucking barber shop. Like, what? Like, don't rob a small business.
Yeah.
Even in the 90s. Like, come on.
There was one thing that I was like, okay, I know this is a ridiculous, like, arty film where, like, stuff is going to happen that's like, it represents something else. Like, this little thing that they do, like him walking through this doorway is like entering hell, or, you know, some stupid bullshit like that. And I thought I had a handle on it, and then the rest of the movie didn't really pan out that way. So now I just got to ask you, like, what you thought about it. That scene when he's like walking home and he comes upon the mannequin hand that's like sitting upright on the ground, just in the street. And so he reaches down and picks it up, but he picks it up like he's shaking its hand.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so what is that? Like, deal with the devil? He's going to become like a big, huge, popular musician, but like a sold your soul kind of thing. Like, oh, like, you know, like you like by taking the shoes, he has agreed to this, you know, that sort of thing. But that never comes to pass because the band isn't popular at all. And like, there's no actual, like, there's nothing involving that. So it was like, so what the fuck was with the mannequin hand? Because like it doesn't come into play.
No.
Like it's not like, oh, you see it around his apartment for the rest of the movie. Like if you do, it doesn't matter.
It was on his windowsill, and then at one point he was like fiddling with it while he was talking to someone.
Gotcha.
But that was it.
Yeah, that's all. So it was like, what was up with that? And the specific, like, that had to be specifically directed, that it wasn't like, and then walk up and pick up the hand. So it's like you do that, you just like reach down and kind of like pick it up like an object.
Yeah.
But to specifically like, no, you got to pick it up palm to palm. It's got to look like you're shaking that hand. Like, oh, okay, I'll do it that way.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, what does that mean? Like,
it just looks cool.
Yeah, fucked if I know. Everyone will be sitting around thinking about it. Like, oh, what did that mean? That's really what this movie felt like. A whole lot of shit that would be like, people will talk about it later because they won't understand it. Because there's no way to understand it. Because it doesn't make any sense. And it's a stupid fucking art film.
Stupid fucking art film.
Yeah, I really, truthfully, did not enjoy it. And what was interesting, too, is the version that we saw is like the correct version when I went and looked into it, because apparently there was a version that was on Netflix years ago that included opening and ending narration.
Oh.
And then also it did not include the scene where Johnny goes to the bathroom in that club and meets up with Freak, and then he's with Darlette. That scene wasn't in there either.
Okay.
And I don't know why. Like, I mean, I can assume why they would put narration in, because nothing makes any fucking sense. So I'm sure when they were like releasing it or just like, distributing it, because obviously when you make an independent movie, you fucking like sell off all those rights of like distribution and stuff, because it's like, you got to buy, I'm in the hole so hard for making this movie, sell all the rights, get the money.
Yeah.
And then they fucking release it. And so I'm sure that whoever fucking bought those rights was like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. All right, let's hire this Brad Pitt kid.
Yeah.
Come in, record a little fucking narration and try to explain some of this dumb shit. And then we'll move on or whatever. And then the director's like, no. Doesn't have narration. They added that. So he takes it out. It's like, oh, cool. So it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah.
Great. Like, I've heard plenty of stories about that. There's movies that like Blade Runner is like, there's a million edits of it, and there's like the one with the narration was the studio's version, and the one without the narration is the one that Ridley Scott wanted to make, and blah 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 and all that. So it's like those sorts of things happen.
Yeah.
But it's like with Blade Runner, I mean, I still haven't seen that one, but like, it's considered a really great movie. So it's like, yeah, okay, I can understand there being a like, you want to see it the director's way.
Yeah.
But with this movie, it's like, I couldn't give a fuck which version he liked better, because it's terrible. He clearly has horrible taste. I don't know what to tell you.
Maybe we should have watched the other version.
Yeah, just so I can understand anything.
Quick shot of just a random ass fire in the middle of the street.
Oh, yeah. I have no, like, again, just another thing where it's just like, oh, look, it's an image. And what does that image bring to mind? It's like, well, I mean, it could bring a billion things to mind, but what do you want it to do?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, I definitely understand the idea that, like, every piece of art is, is defined by the person who watches it. Where it's like, what you get out of it is what it means, essentially. It's a sort of glib way to put it, but, that sort of thing. But still, where it's like, if you just put a random thing in there and you're just like, that's a cool thing, ain't it?
Yeah.
Like, no, that's some music video. Like, music videos do that kind of shit where it's like, why are they playing a song in the middle of a half pipe, like late at night, and nobody's there and there's a fire in the background? It's like, it's just because it all looks cool. It's a music video.
Yeah. Like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, really. In the end, it doesn't fucking matter. But in this case, it's like, this is a movie. There's a narrative to it. There should be a message. There should be something here.
Like, the imagery is a key component to a movie.
The whole fucking point. And like acting so artsy and like all that stuff, and then also having the scene where he farts, and then she knocks on the door, and it's like, oh no, it smells in here. Like, what is this?
Like, seriously,
like that scene would have looked cheesy and like, come on, guys, in Leprechaun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if Ozzy and Leprechaun like farted and went like, oh geez, guys, and you know, it would have been like, fuck you.
Yeah.
You cheesy, horrible horror movie. Like I understand it, you know, lowest common denominator, but just this is garbage.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's in this movie, or it's like, this is art film. Independent. He sat down and he wrote this script, and he wrote that into this script.
Then
it
Brad
was like,
Pitt farts.
Yeah, exactly.
He lifts a leg.
Yeah.
And a little toot comes out.
And then he panics.
Because
and
the
then
girl
later,
shows up.
Yeah, and then later that becomes a sticking point in his mind. Like, I need to be able to make farts. God damn it, man.
Make farts in front of the girl. It's fine.
I mean, that's what I mean. Like, he's such a child that, like, why would anybody want to be with this guy? This guy's the worst.
Seriously.
I really, truthfully, like, I find it hysterical that I had, like, several notes in here about, like, is this when he will die? Like, I hope so. It's surprising to me that, like, when it really comes down to it, like, I feel like I kind of hated this one the most from this month. Like, Haunted Airman was bad, and it made no sense, and it was ridiculous.
Yeah. I somehow followed that better.
Yeah, really. But like at least as much as it didn't make any sense either, like by the end of it, where you're like, who the fuck was even in cahoots with who, and why did this happen, and all of that. Like at least it wasn't up its own ass about it.
Yeah.
Or it was like, isn't this fucking art? It was like, no, this is just a cheesy ass horror movie that's made poorly.
Yeah.
Space Camp. It's like there's really not. It's just that it's a ridiculous movie.
Yeah.
Like it's made fairly well. It's acted fairly well. It's even like written fairly well.
That's my favorite of the month.
Yeah, definitely. So just because of fucking Jinx and Max.
Yeah.
It's a great fucking duo.
Amazing.
Yeah, but it's like even that one, like, okay, yeah, I like that one. And then Masters of the Universe, like it's a terrible. I mean, that one's bad.
Yeah.
That one's really bad. It would be second in the list of bad. Like if this topped it, Masters comes second easily.
This like I feel like Johnny Suede shouldn't even be judged against the others. It was like the first 4 movies can have their own separate ranking.
Yeah.
And then there's Johnny
this.
Suede.
Yeah.
At the bottom under the bucket.
Yeah. It is no good. But I think that is going to wrap it up for Popcorn for Dinner for this week and for Before They Were Famous month. It was fun. It was fun seeing so many actors like before they were famous. Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah, right.
But it is
Tiny Baby Joaquin.
Tiny Baby Joaquin. That is my favorite part of the month. I mean,
highlight.
It's easily the highlight. I will be thinking about Tiny Baby Joaquin for like the rest of my life. It's fucking hysterical. Max. God. Like legitimately sitting here and watching this piece of garbage, Johnny Suede, I was like, I wish a talking robot was in this to make this better. It only could have helped.
It really. If Johnny had a jinx.
Johnny. He's a better singer, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's going to wrap it up, though. This is Jeff.
And Kelly.
Now is like a fly's fart in the wind.